less. Normal would be 7, that would be neutral. I'm saying 5.6 here, so sorry. And what happens is when we have acid rain is that it's harmful to plants, to animals, to soil, and to buildings. We have seen that in the 70s and 80s. I was in Eastern Europe and saw the devastation from coal plants in the mountainsides of the Czech Republic and Eastern Germany. It wasn't quite that bad in West Germany, although the Black Forest really was suffering greatly. This has been halted, but the problem is not gone away completely, and it certainly was a very big warning that we got given those circumstances. You have R for rubbish, or for waste material, or for garbage, or for refuse. There are many words. We don't like it. It's undesirable material, water as well as solid that we discard of. And let me tell you, we just had the end of a strike here, over 30 days. The city was reeking of uncollected garbage, and it was not a pretty sight, although the citizens managed quite well. So this is something that is just as much part of our lives as producing goods is. There are municipal garbage categories, household as well as, of course, commercial categories. There's hazardous rubbish, there is biodegradable rubbish. Litter in the marine environment is something that we hear often and know to be devastating for the water bodies. It's definitely linked to the human development and overdevelopment, and it has a negative impact on the environment. Just a little number here, look at that. There is the US of A in the year 2000, who produced 760 kilogram versus Japan in the same year 410 kilogram of garbage. So there's a difference here, and that's what it looks like, of course. Especially devastating when you think of the marine life and of the plankton and fish that live there. A stands for alpine regions. Alpine, like in higher lying mountainous regions. We know, for instance, that Europe's alpine region was formed through the collision of the African and European tectonic plates and was pushed up relatively young mountains, only 23 million years old, as opposed to, for instance, the Rocky Mountains, which go into the billions. There's a different vegetation in those regions simply because of the height. It's colder up there. So we have a vegetation that is special and is also responding to the changes that have taken place. Since there is so much ice and snow built up lost, and since we now have a strong storms and high degree of quick rains and afterwards long periods of dryness, extreme rainfalls, landslides, loss of permafrost, devastating for all of the ski and vacation the structures with the loss of permafrost. And of course, an alpine region that has 100 million visitors per year has a lot of stress on the environment. The D stands for drought. We've had too much rain, now we have too little rain, because drought are deficient long-term water supply periods. So it could be weeks, it could be months, and it could be years, given the fact that we have deserts and semi-desert areas that receive very little rainfall, but they do receive rainfall, and societies and agricultures are based on the long-term pattern, and if they change, there's catastrophe. So what we see is that cycles are recurring, but if there are extremes, then we get into these cases of deforestation, for instance, of deterioration of fields and agriculture. The statistics tells me here that there's an estimate that every year a fertile soil area of the size of Ukraine is lost because of drought, deforestation, and climate instability. We also know that if you have these factors, then there is migration, and there's famine, and there is often war. And part of it is the other aspect of it, which is if there is a drought, then what we do have in water supplies is overused, and that in itself causes more problems. So when we use the water wisely, maybe, but when we use it in irrigation, which we have done for thousands of years, we can increase yield. And part of what we experience is, in fact, a higher output of agricultural goods, which help the population that has grown, as you have seen, to such a degree. It is an age-old method. We found actually in Mesopotamia tracks and traces of these old irrigation methods, and have had artificial watering for many centuries, as I said. The amazing results are that we can be fed, and the harm is, of course, that we potentially overuse whatever it is that we are using. It's the water that is collected maybe from the rain, but most often comes from underground, the aquifers, and by so doing, we deplete the aquifers. There is subsidence, which is the movement of ground underneath due to changes in the aquifer, and there is salinity. I just heard that the almond trees in Israel and Lebanon that are growing there have not had enough rain, and that now the leaves are sweating out the salt that was used for irrigation, because there's been such irregular irrigation that there is this chemical reaction. Okay. So a man-made environment in terms of plantation is suffering from the consequences of a drought in that case. Solar energy, all of what we need now is something to shine on us, bring us the energy, bring us the warmth for the growth of crops and for the survival of mankind. And when we have too much of it, of course, then we have the drought, or conditions that help with the drought at least. So the radiant light and heat of the sun is what we call solar energy, and we are looking at that as a sense of hope, since there's so much we can do and haven't yet done with solar energy. It is a renewable source, and there can be active and passive solar techniques, and worldwide efforts are yet again in the making to roll out solar water heat, which is one of the things that is relatively easy to do and is a political will mandate rather than can do. And here we come to the last of our slides on the alphabet soup, which